Are you guys ready for Fyre Festival 2.0? Because it seems like we may be getting a rerun of one of the worst events ever held in modern history. You see, our boy, Billy McFarland, is recently out of prison and is back on the streets. And you know what they say, when you're good at something, stick to it. Billy seems to have taken that to heart because he's already thinking of launching a new music festival called PYRT. And in case you think this might be different to last time, let me just tell you that Billy McFarland is the only person I've ever seen described on Wikipedia simply as an American con artist and convicted felon. So today we're going to do a little bit of a dive into the PYRT Festival and why it is literally one of the worst ideas someone has had in the last couple of years. And of course, you can't talk about Billy McFarland without first getting some background info about the original Fyre Festival, which could only be described as a disaster. Imagine you're a young person whose purse strings are about as tight as the Grand Canyon is wide. You want to party, listen to cool music, and maybe see some celebs that you follow. Well, Fyre Festival was supposed to be all of those things. You see, the Fyre Festival was supposed to be the music festival to end all music festivals. It was advertised as being on a private island that Pablo Escobar once owned, with artists like Pusha T, Tyga, Blink-182, Major Lazer, Migos, Lil Yachty, and more being in the lineup. Only problem was that it was not on an island previously owned by Pablo Escobar, having been kicked off the island they originally intended to use, which also was never used by Pablo Escobar, and moved to Great Exuma, which is not even a private island. On top of that, all of the music artists I mentioned earlier pulled out before the festival started, with some acts like Major Lazer never even confirming their act, despite being advertised as going to perform at Fyre Festival. But Billy didn't let a little thing like the fact that everything was crumbling around him slow down his festival. He planned to go on ahead with it anyway. A number of big influencers, including Kendall Jenner, had all been posting promotional material on their social media accounts as part of advertising for Fyre Festival, with a number of influencers potentially making their fans think that they were going to the festival, when in fact they would not be attending. It was basically a perfect storm for those kids with loose purse strings I talked about earlier. Major artists, their favorite influencers, and the entire thing was supposed to be essentially all-inclusive. That's right, you were supposed to show up, have luxury housing, and gourmet food on top of everything else. And guess what? It didn't happen. Instead, the attendees, some of who had spent at least $12,000 on VIP tickets, arrived on the island of Great Exuma in the Bahamas to find no music, no luxury accommodations, no gourmet food. They essentially had just turned up to a badly organized refugee camp, with the tents that were supposed to be luxury places to stay being pretty much emergency tents from FEMA with little in the way of anything resembling luxury. It was a complete and utter shit show. Basically, right when they showed up and saw what was going on, people demanded to leave and go back home. But since McFarland did seemingly not think of anything before sending people to a random island in the Bahamas, there was a regatta going on the island at the same time as Fyre Festival was supposed to happen, which meant that most of the actual hotels on the island were full up, and it took a long time for anyone to actually get a plane back to where they'd come from. This was made worse by the fact that the event had been described as all-inclusive, so people didn't bring much in the way of cash or any other way to pay for anything with them. Like I said before, it was a total mess. Now I know what you're thinking, there's no way he got off scot-free, right? And you would be right. Billy McFarland was charged and pled guilty to wire fraud and had been sentenced to 6 years imprisonment and to pay $26 million in restitution. 4 years after his conviction in 2022, McFarland got an early release from prison to a halfway house, with his house arrest ending in September of that same year. And that, my friends, brings us to PYRT, the new business that he is teasing. Maybe he used his time in the big house to think up a great idea, or maybe it's just that the restitution money is too much. But for whatever reason, Billy decided that he needed to jump back into the spotlight. From what's been announced so far, it seems like he's planning another big party/music festival on an island. You know, because it went so well the last time. He's calling it PYRT this time, since buying a Fyre Festival ticket was essentially just lighting your wallet on fire. Maybe calling it PYRT is some kind of subconscious warning that he might take your money and run this time. I have no other idea why he would name his new venture after being convicted of wire fraud after a group of people who are literally only famous for stealing from people. Pirates. Maybe he's just relying on outrage to spread the word so he doesn't have to pay for advertising or something? And he figured it would be controversial to name it after history's most notorious nautical thieves. Who knows? It's also possible he just didn't think about the connotation of pirates being thieves, which would probably be the funniest reason given his history. And honestly, the little we know about PYRT right now is enough to essentially convince me that it's going to be a flop, with the New York Post reporting that McFarland is planning on having virtual, immersive, decentralized reality events, which would be broadcast to everyone in the world, and that people at home would be able to pay to actually change what's happening at the party. Now, if that sounded like nothing but a bunch of gobbledygook to you, it does to me as well, and that's because it's nothing but buzzwords. He can promise virtual, immersive, decentralized reality events, because no one knows what that is even supposed to mean. So it doesn't matter what ends up happening, he can say it was the plan all along. On top of that, buzzwords that have to do with the black box that is modern technology really gets rich people excited for some reason. I mean, just look at NFTs. But there is something that might throw a wrench in his plans. I guess he's been hinting at holding the pirate event in the Bahamas. Except according to the Deputy Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Chester Cooper, Billy McFarland is currently wanted in the Bahamas and is considered a fugitive from the law. Going so far as to tell people that if they know where McFarland is, they should report it to the Royal Bahamas Police Force. So knowing all of that, do you think that there is even the smallest amount of possibility that McFarland has any reasonable chance of making anything good this time? Because I certainly don't think that he does. Honestly, it might be smarter to just go surrender your money to actual pirates than to buy a ticket to whatever this pirate event is going to end up being. But the worst thing is that you just know that there will be people who will go anyway. With everything we've talked about, there will still be people who will go. On the plus side, if we do end up seeing a replay of the mess that was Fyre Festival, we'll have something new to talk about and to hold us over until Billy gets another brilliant idea. What do you think? Do you trust Billy? Do you think that Pirate could be successful? Let me know in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe. Have a great day and God bless you.